Imagine a man born in a one-room log cabin on the American frontier, with less than a year of formal schooling, who would rise to become the most consequential leader in United States history. He did not inherit wealth, privilege, or political connections. Instead, he forged his destiny through relentless self-education, moral clarity, and an unshakable belief in the promise of democracy. This is the extraordinary reality of a president who guided a fractured nation through its darkest hour, preserved the Union against overwhelming odds, and redefined the very meaning of freedom for millions. His journey from the Kentucky wilderness to the White House is a masterclass in resilience, proving that true leadership emerges not from circumstance, but from the courage to stand firm when the world demands compromise. To understand his legacy is to understand the foundations of modern America, a landscape permanently transformed by a leader who proved that humility, empathy, and unwavering principle can alter the course of history. The genesis of this unparalleled political phenomenon began in the winter of 1809 on a modest farm in Hardin County, Kentucky. Born Abraham Lincoln into a family of frontier pioneers, his early environment was defined by physical hardship, limited resources, and the rugged self-reliance that characterized life on the expanding American edge. His father, a farmer and carpenter, moved the family repeatedly in search of better land, exposing young Abraham to the uncertainties of frontier life while instilling a strong work ethic and practical problem-solving skills. His mother, a woman of deep faith and gentle intellect, nurtured his curiosity and encouraged his early attempts at reading, though her untimely death, when he was 9, left a profound emotional imprint that shaped his compassionate worldview. With access to only a handful of books, he taught himself grammar, mathematics, and history through relentless study by firelight, often walking miles to borrow volumes from neighbors. This self-directed education cultivated not only intellectual discipline, but also a distinctive voice that blended plain-spoken clarity with profound moral insight, qualities that would later define his public communication. His transition from a frontier youth to a practicing attorney and emerging political figure occurred through a series of deliberate, often arduous steps that tested his resilience and refined his convictions. After serving briefly in the militia during the Black Hawk War, he worked as a shopkeeper, postmaster, and surveyor while pursuing legal studies through independent reading and observation of courtroom proceedings. Admitted to the Illinois bar in 1836, he established a successful practice characterized by meticulous preparation, logical reasoning, and a reputation for honesty that earned him the enduring nickname Honest Abe. His early political career included service in the Illinois legislature and a single term in the U.S. Congress, where he voiced opposition to the expansion of slavery while navigating the complex sectional tensions that increasingly divided the nation. Though he stepped back from national politics for several years, he remained deeply engaged with the legal and moral questions surrounding human bondage, developing a coherent philosophical framework that would guide his future leadership. The defining moment of his public life arrived in 1858, when he accepted the Republican nomination to challenge a prominent incumbent for a U.S. Senate seat from Illinois. The ensuing campaign featured a series of highly publicized debates that elevated him to national prominence, not through rhetorical flourish or personal attacks, but through clear, principled arguments about the moral and political implications of slavery's expansion. Though he ultimately lost the Senate race, the exposure established him as a leading voice within the emerging Republican Party and positioned him as a viable candidate for higher office. His nomination for the presidency in 1860 reflected the party's recognition that his moderate stance, frontier background, and moral clarity could unite diverse factions while appealing to voters across northern states. The election triggered the secession of multiple southern states, setting the stage for a constitutional crisis that would test the very survival of the American experiment. Upon assuming the presidency in the spring of 1861, he inherited a nation on the brink of civil war, with federal authority challenged, military resources scattered, and public confidence fragile. His immediate priority was preserving the Union, a goal he pursued through a combination of strategic patience, political maneuvering, and unwavering resolve. He navigated complex relationships with cabinet members, military commanders, and foreign governments, often making difficult decisions with incomplete information and under intense public scrutiny. His leadership style emphasized consultation and deliberation, yet he demonstrated decisive action when circumstances demanded, whether in suspending habeas corpus to maintain order, authorizing the Emancipation Proclamation to redefine the war's purpose, or delivering the Gettysburg Address to articulate a vision of national renewal. Each of these actions reflected his evolving understanding that the conflict was not merely a political dispute, but a moral reckoning that would determine the character of the Republic for generations. The Emancipation Proclamation, issued in 1863, marked a pivotal transformation in both the conduct and meaning of the war. While initially framed as a military measure to weaken the Confederacy, it fundamentally redefined the Union cause as a struggle for human freedom, opening pathways for African American enlistment in the armed forces and shifting international perceptions of the conflict. He understood that lasting change required both legal authority and public consensus, so he worked tirelessly to build support for constitutional amendments that would permanently abolish slavery. His political acumen was evident in his careful timing, strategic communications, and willingness to compromise on secondary issues while holding firm on core principles. This balanced approach enabled him to navigate fierce opposition from both radical abolitionists and conservative Unionists, maintaining a coalition broad enough to sustain the war effort while advancing the cause of justice. His capacity for empathy and moral reflection deepened as the war progressed, shaped by the immense human cost of the conflict and his own personal losses. He visited military hospitals, corresponded with grieving families, and bore the weight of command decisions that sent thousands to their deaths. Rather than hardening his heart, these experiences reinforced his commitment to reconciliation and his belief that the nation's healing would require both justice and mercy. His second inaugural address, delivered as the war neared its conclusion, articulated this vision with remarkable humility, acknowledging the shared complicity in slavery and calling for malice toward none and charity for all. This philosophical maturity distinguished him from contemporaries who sought vengeance or partisan advantage, positioning him as a leader capable of guiding not just military victory, but national restoration. The final chapter of his life unfolded against the backdrop of imminent Union victory and the daunting challenges of Reconstruction. He approached the post-war period with a pragmatic yet principled vision, advocating for lenient terms of reintegration, protections for newly freed citizens, and a renewed commitment to democratic governance. His assassination in April 1865, just days after the Confederate surrender, cut short this critical work and transformed him into a martyr for the cause of unity and freedom. The outpouring of grief across the nation reflected not only sorrow for his death, but recognition of the profound loss his absence represented at a moment of unprecedented national transformation. His legacy was immediately invoked by successors seeking to advance or contest his vision, ensuring that his ideas would remain central to American political discourse for generations. Beyond his political achievements, his personal character remained marked by humility, introspection, and a deep sense of duty. He maintained a modest lifestyle despite the presidency, valued candid counsel over flattery, and approached power with a sober awareness of its limitations and responsibilities. His relationships with family, friends, and colleagues were characterized by loyalty, patience, and a willingness to listen, qualities that sustained him through periods of intense isolation and criticism. He frequently turned to poetry, literature, and philosophical reflection to process the burdens of leadership, drawing strength from a broad intellectual tradition that emphasized human dignity and democratic ideals. This inner life provided the moral foundation for his public actions, ensuring that his decisions were guided not by expediency alone, but by a coherent ethical framework. The enduring impact of his leadership extends far beyond the Civil War era, fundamentally shaping American identity, constitutional interpretation, and the global understanding of democratic governance. He demonstrated that a nation conceived in liberty could endure profound internal conflict and emerge with a renewed commitment to equality and justice. His insistence that government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from the earth became a touchstone for democratic movements worldwide. From the log cabin of his birth to the hallowed halls of the White House, his journey remains a profound testament to the power of self-education, moral conviction, and resilient leadership in the face of existential crisis. He did not merely preserve a union, he redefined its purpose, leaving behind a legacy of principle, compassion, and transformative vision that continues to inspire those who believe that democracy, though fragile, is worth defending. His name endures as a permanent benchmark in political history, a reminder that true greatness emerges when personal humility meets historical necessity, and that the arc of justice bends only through the persistent efforts of those willing to stand for what is right.